Your Excellency, to receive the Queen's Service Medal, Mr. Brian Adams of Christchurch for services to cricket. Mr. Brian Adams has had a long-standing involvement with cricket in the Canterbury region since the late 1950s. He played for the Burnside West Christchurch University Club from 1959 to 1988 and was selected for the New Zealand Ambassadors team, which toured South America, the West Indies, the United States of America and the United Kingdom in 1970. He's a life member of the club and has filled numerous roles between 1968 and 1981, including president. He produced histories of the club for the 75th and 100th anniversaries in 1980 and 2005, respectively. Since 1975, he's volunteered for the Canterbury Cricket Association in a variety of roles, including chairman, president, and member of the association's Board of Control. He's a life member of the association, as well as the Lancaster Park Board of Control, having served on the board for 9 years. As a statistician, Mr. Adams has produced a report, Trends in New Zealand Cricket, every year since 1991, tracking the development of cricket since 1946.
Well, Brian, welcome to Hagley Oval and to the Hagley Pavilion and to the home players' room. Where did that all begin? I mean, there's a clear indication that your love of sport has played a major part in life, but where did that begin?
Both my grandparents lived in Amberley. Pop Adams, who had 3 sons, my father, Johnny Adams, Fred was the father, and there was another brother, Harold, and they all played cricket.
Right.
And if you didn't play cricket, we played rugby. But my parents had a shop in Papania Road, and so we had no backyard at all. There was just a little bit of shingle there. And I used to found there was a foundation for the house and the shop with little tiny pebbles. So I stood there and threw a ball at these pebbles.
Right.
It would come off at all different angles. And so that really helped my reflexes. And that's why I suppose I became a wicketkeeper.
Right.
Because I could actually catch quite well through those hours of throwing a ball against these little pebbles.
Right.
But like a very early imitation of a catching machine.
Right. There's a bit of Don Bradman about that, isn't there?
Yes, that's right.
Golf ball. Yeah.
But it was good, and because I went to school in Elmwood and then Heaton Street, it was some distance from where the shop was, and there didn't seem to be any other people at my age around. So I was happy with it. Might have been quite lonely at times, but I was able to enjoy myself throwing a ball. So that's how I was developed. My father played cricket for Harewood in the suburban competition, and I'd go and watch him play. And then by that stage I was starting to play at Heaton Street, and somehow or other they sent me to St Andrews College. No idea how they could afford to pay the fees from owning a fruit shop. But I did go to St Andrews, and I loved the atmosphere there, and played a lot of cricket in the under-14s, under-16s, first 11, 3 years there. And I thought cricket at that stage was quite easy because of my first game for the first 11. I scored a century. It seemed that every time I was in a team, if I was the halfback, I was the captain. If I was the wicketkeeper, I was the captain. And there must have been something tied into that in those days. So I was captain in 58.
Right.
And then at the end of the year, in 59, I joined the West Christchurch Club.
You played, obviously, cricket. What about rugby? You talked about halfback. Did you play?
Yeah, I played in the bantamweights, I think, and lightweights. And then in the first 15 in 1957 and 58.
Right.
But I don't think I had the interest quite like I had in cricket, and I didn't like training. I tended to be one who was probably reasonably fit anyway,
Right.
but I enjoyed playing the game,
Right.
but I didn't have the motivation or interest to go much further than what I did.
You played cricket for West Christchurch when you left school initially up here?
Yes, no. Well, Jack Kerr used to coach us
Right.
on a Saturday morning, and he was one of the early members of the West Christchurch Club. So it seemed to be the choice to go to that club.
Right. In those formative years, did you reach representative status in cricket, rugby?
Yes, we played in the under 14 team, the under 15 county teams, and in rugby, myself and my cousin John, we were selected for some category side about under 16, I think,
Right.
and we were in the team that played a curtain raiser
Right.
for the Test match in 1954.
That'd be a great experience.
It was a great experience.
Yeah.
All I remember is after the game we got a pot pie and a fizzy drink.
Yeah. You made your career as a dentist, so clearly academically you were pretty switched on.
Yeah, interesting about dentistry. My dentist actually had a practice right opposite my parents' fruit shop, and I got to know him quite well because he'd come and buy fruit and veggies. And I was halfway through my 5th form year, and I was just getting out of the dental chair, and for some reason or other he asked me what I'm going to do when I leave school, and that caught me unawares, and I just said, oh, medicine. And the only reason I said medicine was because my mother was heavily involved with St John Ambulance.
Right.
And Langwood's reaction was, Brian, don't do medicine, you get called out all hours of the night. During the weekend, do dentistry. And I thought about it and I thought, okay, that sounds a better choice than medicine.
Yeah.
So I made the decision to do dentistry halfway through 1956.
Okay.
And did my intermediate year in Christchurch in 1959
Right.
and went down to Dunedin for 4 years.
Right.
In my first year out of Dunedin in 1960, I graduated in 1963. In 1964 I worked for the dental department of the Christchurch Hospital and had 3 months working as a dentist in the Chatham Islands.
Right.
And I played rugby over there, and they were 5-a-side teams. There were 3 teams, and I played 2 games, and then I realised after a short time this is not particularly a good idea because the flying boat, when we got there, only came every 6 weeks, and the boat, the home day, would only come about every 2 months.
Right.
So if I got injured, there was no way I was going to be sent back to Christchurch to work.
Yeah.
And I don't think the principal dental officer would be very impressed
No.
that his dentist had got injured playing rugby. So I stopped playing rugby and I refereed after that.
Okay.
It was a good decision.
5-a-side rugby, that smacks of a lot of running, Brian. And you said earlier you weren't keen on training, so maybe this will learn
No.
that as well.
Well, and the worst thing about that was the field was on an angle
Right.
and that was the prevailing wind. So most of the rugby was played in 122. So,
Yeah.
but no, it was a good experience.
So that would have been really interesting. Chatham Islands. So did you volunteer for that? Or did
Yes,
you
I did.
put
There was only 5 positions available for dentists. And one had to go to the Chatham Islands, one had to be on call, and the other 3 were seconded to hospitals around Christchurch.
Right.
So I applied for the Chatham Islands, and no one else wanted to go
No,
there.
no.
So I won it by default.
Yeah.
But it was a career that was good for me, Michael.
Yeah.
I could go to England and work there.
You've travelled a lot.
And
You have
travelled.
travelled a lot, haven't you? Yeah.
We did that big tour with my dental classmate.
Yeah.
We lived together for 3 years. You know, we drove from London to Istanbul one time,
Yeah.
and that kept a diary there, and that was a fantastic trip.
I'm in you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying how they do. They're really saying, I love you. I hear babies cry. I watch them grow. They learn much more than I never knew. And I think to myself, what a wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.